Hey, I'm back. This is Chandler for Melda Production, and today what I want to do is explain the, follower and envelopes inside the mod section of Melda plugins. I'm using MXXX, but this applies to tons of other Melda plugins. I'm also using mGuitar Architect for the sounds, but you can see inside M1 we have those same things. So I'm going to kind of do hopefully a deep dive on what these are and how to use them. I have a guitar sound here. It's basic. That's all we're going to use. And let's look at what these do. So to make this a little bit more clear, what I'm going to do is just put something in here so you can see and hear what it's doing. Let's try the filter follower. This is just a basic filter here. I have it at, let's do 24 decibels per octave, a low pass filter. And let's click clear and learn and hook this up. Let's move it up here, there. Then when we're done, just click it again, turn it on, and if I play something, so it's being controlled by an LFO. I'll make it go a little bit faster. I want to turn this value up. Let's try like 300, and yeah, 4,000 seems good. So that's fine, but before in previous videos, I went over the LFO stuff, so I think you probably understand, what that is and how that works. And if you're wondering, like, hey, it seemed like the LFO stopped, why did it stop? And that's because it's sleeping. This is just saves you CPU. If you don't like that, just go into, I believe, the settings or the menu, and you can turn this intelligent sleep on silence off. So now it's just always running if that's what you want, but let's save some CPU and just have it sleep when it's not working. So instead of talking about this, the normal LFO, or this can also be a step sequencer here, since we talked about that before, let's go into the follower here. So this one is very similar. In the random section, I talked about this LFO modulation. All that's doing is just adding the LFO into this, so it's kind of blended between it. The next thing we have here is the level minimum. So this is where the follower starts working. The level maximum is where it stops working. So this is going to be where it starts modulating at the bottom of the value. The level max is when it hits that top value. This is all controlled by the level of your input signal. You can also have it being controlled by the feedback, but let's not talk about that now. Here we have the detector. So we have the attack, we have the release, and the hold. That should all be pretty self-explanatory. This will be, how fast it starts responding. This will be when it falls below the threshold, how long does it take to the effect to stop working, etc. You can also control this with the side chain if you want. Just click this and you can get the side chain signal instead of your primary signal. RMS length, I think, is probably pretty self-explanatory. Delay, just before the attack starts, how many milliseconds do you want? Good. This is a little bit more complicated, so let's go over like the basic way to use it, and then I'll get into this pitch modulation and transient modulation. Here we have the release modes. So you can have the manual mode, but you also have automatic, automatic fast, linear, linear 2, opto. These are all slightly different. If you click this little question mark here, you can see this, and they'll actually go over the different modes and kind of tell you what are the differences between them. It's a bit complicated. It's not that hard, but like different compressors will have different releases. It's basically that. So experiment, see which one works for you if your release isn't quite right on the default settings, but normally I find default's fine. You also have some advanced detector settings here, like true RMS, true hold, psychoacoustic pre-filtering, and you can get even more in depth with the attack shape if you want, or the release shape. And you also have the sidechain equalizer here if you want. If you're not using the sidechain and you want to equalize your signal to filter out things, you can use this band pass. So if you have lots of bass in your sound and you don't want it to be just triggered off the bass all the time, just use this. And the same thing with the top end. So you have the low pass and high pass filters here. Projection, this one kind of annoying and hard to understand, but it kind of adds something to the LFO. And here in the advanced section, you have the maximize mode. So if your signal's too soft, you can click that and it will kind of boost it for you and sometimes makes things easier. But enough talking, let's get into it. I'll show you how you usually do things or how I do things. So the first thing I do is I play something quiet and then I adjust this level minimum. So you see here we have this here, the knob, but you can also drag this. Either one works. So I'll play something maybe a bit soft. And from there, I'm going to adjust it. Maybe is this good? And then I'll play something louder. I want to bring the max down to right at that top level here. So when I do that, it should have this go from 300 all the way up to like 4,000, which I have the max here. So if I try it, bring this down even more. So I'm getting kind of like an envelope filter effect, and of course I could adjust that attack if I want to. Of course, I'm not really trying to do an envelope filter here, but you get the idea. And you can adjust the maximum and minimums to your taste, and it also depends on your program material. So that's not really something I can say, set it always like this or always like that. I usually think what I'm playing, like the softest part, that's probably where I want to set the minimum, and the loudest part is probably where I want to set the maximum. But of course, that's not always the case, and you can kind of choose and adjust it as you see fit. Next one here is I'll talk about the transient modulation. So this works based on the whole signal, but if I turn this to 100%, it's only going to listen to the transients. So if I do that and we play it now, one, you see like, hey, it seems like it's a lot softer. So we're going to have to adjust the minimums and maximums again. You're probably thinking like, hey, that seems like a lot faster. And that's just because it's going off just the transients and not my whole signal. If I turn this off and bring it up again, it's a bit annoying. Just a bit. And if you look at what's happening here, look how long it takes to release. So it's following my guitar sustain. If I turn that transient modulation on and do the same thing, it's not going to do that. As soon as that transient's done, it's going to start the release stage. So you can go 100%, 0%, or any blend in between. So that's kind of a useful one. And the other one is pitch modulation. So instead of going off the level, what this is going to do is it's going to change this not based upon your level, but upon the pitch you're playing. So if I move this to 100%, I'll have to readjust everything here. So let me just take a look here. This looks like it's my signal. If I play the lowest note on my guitar, now I'll play a high note. So now if I play a low note on my guitar, watch this minimum frequency. High note. So for this, it's not really that interesting, but if you're using something else, like you could have this control the speed of your LFO. So as you play higher, your LFO is moving faster, which might be like a cool, interesting effect. So you can do that using this pitch modulation. So I think that's about everything in here for the follower, but that's the basic idea of what it does. This is for something where I might be playing dynamically, some loud notes, some soft notes, and I want to do something different depending on the level. Let's look at the envelope now. This is almost the same, except this one I probably wouldn't use if I'm playing something dynamic. This is something that I just want to trigger once it hits a certain volume. So I'm not looking to vary it depending on how loud I'm hitting it or how soft I'm hitting it. It's just once I hear something or once it hears something, I just want it to modulate. So if you look here in the detector section, you see almost the exact same thing, threshold on, threshold off. It's the same as the min max, level min max here, except instead of having a in between like this is just going to be like on and off. So it's basically the same, except here, usually I want the threshold off, maybe closer to the threshold on. You have detector hold, you have the attack, release, RMS length. Same thing, pitch modulation, transient modulation. We have transient mode and release mode. So it's pretty much the same. But keep in mind for this, the detector settings and your ADSR are different for this. So I can have it detect it more slowly or quickly, but that doesn't mean my attack is going to be faster. So for this, I can set it here. It just goes on. But if I move this attack like this, so you see this attack didn't change, but the ADSR attack changed here. Also, this has sustain, so if I hold this, I can get some of the same effect, but I can just turn this off and it will almost immediately start decaying like this. And that's another thing. It's good to look here at the analyzer and set the level. And I also think, when do I want this to turn off? So sometimes for this, I might turn that threshold off even above the threshold on. So I think that gives you a good idea of what you can do with this. This also has like single start, single stop. I can force the start. So there's lots of different things you can do for this. On top of that, it also has the feedback. So if I'm using something else in MXXX with feedback, I can have it be triggered by the feedback instead of the input signal. But also I can have this triggered by MIDI if I want. So if I just think like, you know what, it's too sloppy to do that, I can just play something on a keyboard or something, or I have another track with a keyboard. I want it to be triggered off of that, or maybe triggered off drums where I have MIDI going through. I can do that too. So that way I don't even have to worry about my audio signal being perfect. The MIDI will do it for me, which sometimes is a big help. Another thing you can do that might also be helpful is I have this trigger here. So just by pushing this, this will cause the envelope to go off. So if I want to control this with another LFO, I can just go in here, clear and learn, click the trigger like that. So now I have it in here. I can set, LFO and have the LFO just. Now, that's probably not the most useful way to use this, but you can do it that way. And something else I could do is I could use the multi-parameter. I can control this with MIDI as well. Or something else. I could use like MIDI CCs or something like that. Like maybe I have a foot controller and I want to control it using a volume pedal or something. I could do it that way. Or I could write in, modulation inside your DAW to trigger it at a certain point. So there's a lots of different things you can do with this. And of course, since you have this complex ADSR, I can do other things besides just basic attack and delay. I can put like this trim in the section here. So you see there's lots of different things you can do with this. And the filter, I think, is a little bit boring, But keep in mind, you can modulate almost anything in Melda plugins, so you don't have to just do like filters and things. You could do, the speed of a chorus. You could do the amount of distortion, or almost anything you want. So by doing this, you have a lot of control over things, and you can really modulate things and give them a sense of dynamics that you can't get with lots of other plugins. So I think this is one of the strong points of Melda plugins. And remember, almost all the plugins actually have this system in here. So you can do this with your chorus, your phasers, your distortion, your digital distortion, whatever you want. Almost anything can be modulated. So, it's whatever your imagination can think of. And so hopefully this will help you with that. If it did, give me a thumbs up. If you have any more questions about the follower or the envelope, be sure to leave those down below. And one more thing, make sure you check out all the other plugins at meldaproduction.com. Till next time, see you.